Good afternoon and welcome to the North Wales Business Exhibition of 2021. Possibly one of the business exhibitions that should be first on your calendar every year. Here with me today I'm delighted to welcome Asghar Shabani, the chair of the Deeside Business Forum. Professor Maria Hinfalar, the Vice Chancellor and Chief Executive of Glyndŵr University. Alwyn Williams, the Programme Director for the North Wales Growth Deal. And also Professor John Reynolds, CEO of Reynolds International. For the first of our business forums, Asghar, I'll come to you first. You're incredibly passionate about this region. So start us off by telling us, why should businesses get involved in developing their businesses in North Wales?
To start with, as you can see today, from the number of attendees, the quality of the attendees, and the fighting spirit among the business community. They are passionate, they are battle hardened, and they're unbeatable when it comes to a pandemic or anything. And they get on and they do the job and they believe that they can win. And besides that, the amazing business community we've got tidal energy in northwest Wales. And in North Wales, the possibility of further tidal energy we could have. We've got one of the largest solar panel farm in the United Kingdom here. Yes. We've got Airbus here. We've got Toyota here. We've got massively superior, innovative organizations in Deeside, in Wrexham, and besides that, we got two international airports around the corner. We're only a couple of hours from London. We are only not far away from Dublin or Belfast. So, best fantastic connected region in the whole United Kingdom.
Absolutely, and it was interesting that you made a couple of key words there about battle hardened. You know, people of this area really they've stuck together for not just the recent years, but almost centuries in many ways. But all as a result of that, they've been incredibly innovative. Possibly one of the most innovative companies just down the road, Airbus at Broughton.
Sure.
So, of course, to underpin that, a lot of it is about learning and development. So if I could turn to Maria next. Maria, what contributions can universities such as Wrexham's Glyndŵr University make to help sectors who have suffered during the pandemic, such as aerospace, and reinvent themselves?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I agree. The aerospace sector is one of the sectors that suffered the most, as well as clearly tourism and hospitality. And now I'll give you an example of the work that we are doing with Airbus. So Airbus, a major employer in the region, really committed to our area. And one of the new fields that they are moving into is unmanned aerial vehicles, otherwise known as drones. Yes. So we are working with Airbus to help them develop very, very lightweight, large-scale drones. Not your toy that you can send up in the back of the garden, but really large-scale drones that can be used, for instance, to map the impact of climate change. That can be used for aerial surveillance in humanitarian disasters. So we are working with them to help develop the communication systems, the optics, as well as the light composites materials, because of course these UAVs or drones need to be lightweight. They need to be able to withstand extreme temperatures at high altitude, whether it's very high or very low temperatures, and they need to be reliable. So one of the flagship research groups that we have is the optics group based in North Wales.
Yes.
And what the business that they're in essentially is to develop lenses to very, very fine tolerances which can be used in equipment like that to do the geomapping. And another research group that we have is in composite materials, which is right here on Deeside, on the Airbus site actually, developing composites. So we're bringing the two together and working with Airbus to help them move into that really exciting new field, which is so important. Yes. For us as a society. Now clearly the expectation is that passenger traffic will come back to more sustainable volumes again. But then again, there are aspects to that we need to watch. We need to look at sustainability. We need to look at minimizing pollution. So there is a lot of innovation that needs to be done there as well. So one of the areas as well that this region is trying to champion is hydrogen. We're going to hear a little bit more about that in a moment from some of the other speakers. But as a university, we're really plugged into that new technology as well. So really, to sum it up, what we are about as a university in terms of working with the aerospace sector is to help it to innovate, bring the skills, bring the people and the technology to make that happen.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you should say that, because those connections with Airbus make the university a very attractive place for future students, don't they?
It does. And if I can just add one little thing,
yes.
Airbus are also involved with us with our Science Discovery Centre called Explore. Now, so that's about getting very young kids interested and excited about careers in science and technology, not only aerospace but also other fields. And Airbus sits on the board of our Science Discovery Centre, which is really proof of their commitment and our commitment to make sure that we start young. You know, it's 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds that we need to get interested in these areas.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Now, we're hearing a lot of rhetoric at the moment from UK government about the creation of a high skills economy, and you've touched on it there. Is that happening here in the MDA region? And what is the evidence as regards to where Wrexham Glyndŵr University graduates go? You're touching on it now. They go to places like Airbus, the jobs they get, the places where they live and work. Can you just expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, we monitor that every year. So we carry out surveys every year, which are done independently for all the universities in the UK, to look at where our graduates go and what as you say, what jobs do they do. And Wrexham Glyndŵr University is on the spectrum of retaining our graduates in the region, is really up there, because about 70%, 8 in 10 of our graduates live and work in the area, stay within the area. So that means that the investment in them, in their education and their skills, stays within the area, which is really important for us as a region. So that is pretty good. What we also keep an eye on is what fields of study, how do they relate to the local economy. So clearly it's engineering, but it's also the service industries. Health is very important, so we're really big in that. And we also have a number of subjects in the creative industries, because that's important.
Yes.
So it's really making sure that our courses are relevant, are focused on careers, but about the skills needs for tomorrow, not just tomorrow morning, 10 years' time, 20 years' time, being adaptable, and build that into our curriculum as well.
Absolutely. And I think the great thing about it, Maria, as well, is that the strength of kind of like the manufacturing industry, for example, really then feeds into additional industries like hospitality and leisure.
It does.
Because it's not just a great place to work, it's a great place to live as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, turning to you, Owen, what is North Wales' growth deal, and how will this support the economy here in North Wales to strengthen and provide those opportunities in the long term?
Right, so the growth deal, I suppose in its simplest form, is an agreement, and it's an agreement and a partnership between two governments, so UK government, the Welsh government, and our Economic Ambition Board, which is made up of the 6 local authorities, our partners in universities and in further education colleges, and the private sector. So those 3 groups coming together in a partnership to deliver for the economy of North Wales. It's £1 billion investment in our region over the next 10 to 15 years. That in itself is going to make a massive impact in terms of the opportunities it will bring. 240 million is already committed, and we're already developing the programs and the projects that will deliver value through that 240 million. It will unlock areas of the economy that will then become viable for private sector investment and investors to come. It will create new jobs in the economy, and not just jobs, but high value, innovative jobs for our future generations. And basically the growth deal is focusing on 5 key areas of the economy. Digital infrastructure to make us the best connected region. Land and property, so bringing sites and premises ready, making them ready for the market commercially. Innovation in high value manufacturing, which is a real strong sector and experience that North Wales already holds in the manufacturing sector anyway. We've got agri-food and tourism, so again, 2 of our most important foundation sectors here in North Wales, and also importantly, building on our experience in low carbon energy and capitalising on the benefit that we already hold of having skills and knowledge in low carbon energy within the region. So it's an investment in those 5 key areas that will ultimately create the future for the economy of North Wales, and bring new opportunities into the region for our future generations.
Yeah. And I think the key thing about those 5 areas as well, actually, Alwyn, is that it's about collaboration between them all as well, isn't it? Just as we're seeing here today.
Absolutely. So collaboration and the ability to work as one for the region is I think it's a real unique selling point for North Wales.
Absolutely.
We are small enough to come together really quickly and work as one to tackle the challenges we face.
Absolutely.
But we are big enough to make a significant impact on a global scale. So I would go so far to say there are probably few regions that can say that in terms of our size, but our ability to create impact.
And everything that's in the one place, which is what I love as well, in a very short area.
Absolutely, and just walking around today and realising how we are all connected. That 6 degrees of separation doesn't exist in North Wales. It's a lot less. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Owen. We're running out of time, so I'll come very, very quickly to you, to Professor Reynolds. Given the climate emergency, forthcoming COP26 and the green agenda, coupled with developing energy supply and pricing crisis, is there potential in North Wales to make a significant contribution to help address the issues in the longer term?
Absolutely, yes. First and foremost, we've got an existing capability with nuclear in Anglesey, Trasfynydd. We've also got offshore renewable energy, which are proven technologies locally available. But we also have a huge amount of untapped potential that feeds in to tidal stream, which is being developed as a prototype area in the Holyhead Deep off Anglesey, but also a major new project off the North Wales coast, if we can get the investment, that would generate 2.5 gigawatts in a tidal range project. And the advantages of that in relation to the carbon economy is that project, if delivered, would save over 200 million tonnes of CO2. It would also generate enough electricity per annum to provide the domestic consumption for 1.1 million out of 1.3 million houses in Wales, which is a very significant contribution. But coupled with that, it's also an opportunity to develop the expertise that we can export, and therefore playing on the strengths that are within the community, that as colleagues here have been saying already, we can build upon that. So we have the beauty of the geography. We have in terms of it working for us, we are the 3rd largest tidal range in the world, effectively. Yeah. It's right on our doorstep. Why aren't we capitalising on it?
Absolutely.
We can generate gigawatts of power, so why aren't we?
Absolutely. Do you know, it's fabulous, and I'd love to talk to you about that all day. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it here. Thank you to my guest. I think we can safely say that at the North Wales Business Exhibition, and I'm going to steal somebody else's strapline here, North Wales does mean business. Thank you.
Thank you, you're clear. Thank you. It worked.
In today's business world, connectivity is absolutely essential. So I'm now talking to Paul Coop of ITS. Paul, tell us, why is ultra-fast connectivity so important to businesses today?
Oh, it's absolutely essential. As we've found out, obviously from the global pandemic in the last couple of years, people all of a sudden have had to work remotely, and then they suddenly come up with all the issues of the children working at home and not having bandwidth issues. So ultra-fast connectivity is really, really key. What we have done at ITS Technology Group, we are one of the alternative network providers across the UK. Obviously, there's a directive from the government to get ultra-fast gigabit connectivity across all the UK. Yeah. Initial plans were when the copper from the BT Openreach exchanges is now going to be running out in 2025. Yep. It's now been extended to 2033. And we're the alt-net provider. We've built 35 full fibre networks already, circa 1,000 kilometres, of which we pass around about 200,000 businesses already. So we've got a big drive. We're big invested by Aviva. So ultra-fast connectivity allows customers, they work with EPOS systems, telephony systems, cloud data. Look at Amazon. Yeah. Everything is being driven to online services. So you need the connectivity to support your business in this day.
Absolutely. So in that case, tell us, what is the ITS Faster Britain network?
So we enabled Faster Britain as the logo really for our reseller partners and our wholesale partners. Right. So if you look at the Faster Britain logo and the name itself, all the partners across the UK, of which there's circa 200, know that Faster Britain is part of in 35 networks. So whether that's London, Nottingham, two of the big bills locally, we've got Deeside Business Park, which has been fibred up. And we've also got the LCR Connect, which is the Liverpool combined authority across the 6 regions, which is Sefton, Halton, Knowsley, St Helens, the Wirral and Liverpool city centre as well. So that's what Faster Britain is all about, is enabling ultra-fast connectivity for all the partners so they know what the name is.
Paul, thanks for talking to us. Keep us connected and keep Britain going faster. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers.
Take care. Here we are with the wonderful Vicky Roscombe of MBAR Foundation. Now Vicky, tell us, what do social leaders need to do differently in the future to be heard, make a difference and also drive change?
What social leaders need to remember that it's called a social enterprise, and we need to be transformative with our innovation to include communities. That's the school community, business community and basically the wider community, and empower them to make the change. And I think that's what people aren't doing. People call me a disruptor. I'm not a disruptor. I just help people get a voice and empower them to make the change for tomorrow. And we have to do that a lot in our skills agenda. It's great that universities and colleges are out there, but as been spoken today, we need to look back at taking people away from the college, putting them back into workplaces and growing them going forwards.
Absolutely. And thinking about colleges, why do you think education and learning needs to adapt and needs to be more innovative?
Why it needs to be innovative is people are coming from schools and they're doing your normal, that's why I always say we need STEAM and not STEM, because you need to have the arts and the creativity. I think a lot of basic skills that young people have been stifled, and they're trying to run it through a curriculum where they've got to do maths, science. Well, let them do whatever science they want. If they want to add arts in it, that's going to be the critical change. As manufacturing and other industries are moving at a fast pace, we need to be developing change and soft skills into these individuals, which isn't happening in this day and age.
Passionate and powerful as ever. Thanks, Vicky. Welcome back to Coleg Cymru and the North Wales Business Exhibition of 2021. This is our second forum of the day, and I'm delighted to have with me Martin Evans, Head of Industrial Academy at Airbus, Lauren Kinch, who's a kiln engineer at Hanson Cement, and also Andrew Gwentner, District Manager, of Liverpool Bay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Martin, we'll start with you. Aerospace has historically been a hugely innovative sector. Can you tell me about the latest innovations of Airbus? And I'm really looking forward to this one.
Sure. I think we really have a jewel in the crown for the UK aerospace industry. Over many years of expertise built up both locally here in North East Wales and also nationally across the UK as a whole.
Yeah.
But I think we'd all recognise that our industry and our sector has been presented with unprecedented change and significant demands as the world changes. I think that's and what that means then is for sure innovation remains key to the success of our business.
Absolutely.
And if I could put that probably a little bit more concretely, what does that mean for Airbus then? Typically we look at innovations in our production system and how we build our wings and aircraft as we move from metallic or aluminium structures of the past to wonderful carbon fibre structures of the future. We also look at the wider move from kerosene, which is the fuel of today, the carbon heavy fuel of today, as we move to sustainable aviation fuel, and then ultimately towards hydrogen of the future as we look to power the aircraft of tomorrow. And then I think if we were to focus very locally at our plant in Broughton, we're working on a very, very exciting programme, research and development programme called the Wing of Tomorrow, which just to put that into context is one of Airbus's biggest research and development programmes, and Airbus in the UK is playing a pivotal role in that. What we're looking at there is how we design and build the wings of tomorrow. So looking at innovative things, new wonderful composite structures designed by homegrown engineers using factory of the future technologies, employing all the wonderful digital whether it be, as I say, factory of the floor, digitalised shop floor, and then ultimately, with all that as a backdrop, how we upskill our people for the future and the challenges. So we have a wonderful facility called the AMRC Cymru, which we're working on our Wing of Tomorrow programme in a really truly state-of-the-art facility here in Wales.
Absolutely. And I think the great thing actually, Martin, as well, is that, the link that you've got to Glyndŵr University and the potential students and therefore your workforce of the future coming through from there as well.
Yeah, we do a lot of work with Coleg Cambria.
Yeah.
So our apprentices are spending time with Coleg Cambria, our first-year apprentices learning their basic skills, and then they come in from there into the factory at Broughton.
Right, brilliant. Now, we touched on your challenge for the future, and I understand that Airbus is committed to delivering the world's first zero-emission aircraft.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, sure. Well, I think first of all we all recognise probably climate change is the biggest challenge of our generation. It's in the news daily on a global level, and we know that the COP conference taking place in Glasgow.
Yes.
From an Airbus perspective, absolutely yes. Airbus is looking to pioneer sustainable aviation for the future. And along those lines, what we see is 2035, we have a zero-emission aircraft available in terms of, as I said, we move away from the reliance today on carbon and kerosene, and we move towards hydrogen power. So our thinking towards enabling that zero-emission aircraft of 2035
yes.
is a move to hydrogen and hydrogen technology. And again, we have a Zero-E demonstrator program within the company where we're looking at sort of various different types and designs of aircraft and aeroplanes which could come to fruition in the future, ultimately powered by hydrogen hybrid. So we take the current engines of today,
yes.
Which are, as I said, powered by kerosene, and we look at how they can be powered by hydrogen going forward. So we store liquid hydrogen, and then we would burn it, and we know the the outcome of that is water as opposed to carbon dioxide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's one, and that would be joined by hydrogen cells as well. So we have this hybrid principle. So the hydrogen cells would complement the hydrogen turbine engines as well. So really exciting things for the future.
Yeah, very much so. We're on 2035.
Absolutely.
Just quickly, because we need to get to Lauren in just a moment, but you touched on it. What opportunities are there for young people to join Airbus? You talked on the connection with the Colle Camria here.
Yes, of course. Again, Airbus has a very, very rich history of early careers. So it's in the DNA of the company about how we grow the next generation of engineers for colleagues in all aspects of the business. And a little fact, Gary, 70% of the senior managers within the company are ex-apprentices.
Brilliant.
So just to give you an idea, and I'm really pleased to share that our apprentice programme for 2022 is now open. And we're looking at recruiting apprentices both in craft disciplines, in engineering, higher engineering, direct entry graduates. We have places for internships, and we also, believe it or not, running a programme with schools for work experience that we're having to do remotely at the moment. And the numbers we're looking at for next year between our Broughton and our sister site at Filton near Bristol is over 430 positions available. So just go to Airbus Careers, airbus.com/careers. All the information is there, and I'd encourage anybody listening to apply for a wonderful career at Airbus.
Brilliant. Martin, thank you so much for that. We could talk all day, but talking about apprentices, I'd like to come to Lauren next, because that was kind of your introduction to Hanson and Hanson Cement. But it's a major employer locally. How's the business performed this year, Lauren, and what challenges do you see on the horizon for Hanson?
So the business has performed very well this year. The construction market in particular has been strong throughout the entirety of this year. There's really been no let-up for us. We've produced very similar tonnages of cement as we have in previous years, but we've been outstripped by demand. So it has been quite challenging at points. We've had challenges with the haulier shortages, as I know everybody has. Luckily, we were sheltered through a lot of that by having our own fleet, which we're quite proud of.
Yes.
Other challenges are sort of rise in energy costs, which again is a problem for everyone, and of course the cost of carbon.
Absolutely up there. Now, you touched on the fact that the construction market is strong. Are you manufacturing as much cement as you had done in previous years, or are you looking at new materials now to take the company in a different way?
There's a lot of product development underway at the moment. We are developing different cements which will incorporate more low carbon materials, particularly in the concrete side of the business as well, with the use of our Regen product and GGBS. That is helping us reduce our cementitious manufacture and therefore reduce the carbon in those materials. So yeah, there's a lot of product development going on right now.
Excellent, great stuff. Now again, another area that you touched on, haulier shortages. Now, as you say, you've got your own fleet. Has that been long-standing, or is that something that you've developed just over recent years?
It's been developed more so over recent years as a decision to bring the workforce more in-house.
Yes.
And it's held us in good stead for this year.
Perfect. Now I'm just looking really, we've got a list of questions here which could take me on till 3 o'clock, but cement manufacturing is typically looked at as being an energy-intensive process, and the release of the carbon and intrinsic part of the process. But you've significantly already reduced your carbon emissions, aren't you? Tell us a little bit about that and how you've done that.
So as you said, unfortunately, cement manufacture is one of the main contributors of carbon dioxide in industry. In order to reduce our emissions, we have come away from fossil fuels as much as we possibly can, using alternative fuels and biomass-rich fuels in an attempt to get towards net zero on our fuel mixes. part of the manufacture of cement, 70% of the carbon dioxide emissions come from the raw materials. So in terms of process optimization, there is very little we can do to reduce that part of the emissions. What we are doing and what we are now involved in very proudly is the HyNet Consortium and carbon capture and storage. So with the aid of the consortium, we are looking to hopefully be one of the first net zero carbon cement plants in the UK.
Excellent. And I know you personally are very much involved in that process, aren't you? One final thing, actually, Lauren, as a major employer in the area, what opportunities are there for young people coming through and wanting to get into roles at Hanson?
We're an equal opportunities employer and we welcome local talent. It's, as you said, we are quite a large local employer and we've got several apprenticeship schemes, including traditional apprenticeships, lead apprenticeships, where we take people from school and college, we train them, we give them everything they need for a role, and then the aim is to give them a supervisory role when they leave, and the graduate trainee manager program, which is very similar to the lead apprentices, but it takes them to the next level of management as well.
Excellent. Lauren, thank you. Now turning finally to Andrew Gwenter. Is that how I pronounced that right? Sorry, Andrew, the District Manager of Liverpool Bay. Andrew, how does an organisation such as ENI fit into the UK's decarbonisation strategy?
Well, ENI is a very large, major integrated energy company. We have presence in many countries across the world with a large employment base, and we are present upstream, midstream and downstream in many areas. But we believe in a just energy transition. That's part of our commitment within our mission statement. We're signed up to various agreements, the United Nations Agreement for Just Energy Transition, the government's 10-point plan. We are very much aligned to the principles espoused in that, and we have our part to play. Now, clearly, we've been a traditional energy company. We're moving into new areas, and we foresee that we will be part of that energy transition, and really our part in the HyNet cluster, which is why I'm here really, is part of that decarbonisation effort, and I think we will make significant contribution in that way.
Fantastic. Now so what contribution, just taking that a stage further, can ENI make to net zero on both a regional and a local level?
Yeah, so in a regional level, we're obviously a fundamental part of the HyNet Northwest carbon capture cluster, and that's a split between capturing carbon dioxide from industrial emitters, and we will store that in our depleted reservoirs offshore, but also in terms of developing a hydrogen network for industrial users, allowing people who don't have and users who don't have access or the opportunity to decarbonise through other means like Hanson, for example, to decarbonise their business. And by doing that, we'll be able to, aside from the construction jobs and other jobs in operations, protect hundreds of thousands of jobs that exist today in the Northwest, and that's critical for the UK. It's a critical element for decarbonisation as a stepping stone to the green future in decades to come.
Absolutely. And I think, just one final question as well. Those partnerships with regional businesses are key, aren't they?
Absolutely. And speaking personally, I'm really proud to be part of that, and I've seen a real sense of collaboration from around North Wales and the Northwest. So we, as ENI, we are, and some of you may not know who we are, but we're going to be the transportation and storage company element of the HyNet cluster. So that our part in that is capturing the CO2 that people emit. And to that extent, we've now signed memorandums of understanding with 13 significant companies in North West and North Wales to capture their carbon, and we hope to build that transitional business as part of an energy mix. But we're not only doing that, we're also elsewhere in other regions involved in offshore wind, in hydrogen, and we've also recently signed, for example, in North Wales an MOU with Uniper, and that's been in the public domain. So we are looking at that for both blue and green hydrogen, and it's all part of that development of a hydrogen economy as part of an energy mix transition. Yeah. It's not fundamental, it's not the only part, it's a fundamental part to kick it off.
Brilliant. Right. Andrew, thank you for that. Lauren and indeed Martin. What we've heard there is from 3 very successful local companies, but the key thing for me to take away from that is the mindset that they've got to help combat climate change. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So turning to the finance sector, I'm here with Mark Davis of Aaron & Partners.
Morning.
Morning, Mark. Mark, tell us, with the end of furlough, the repayment of bounce-back loans and the moratorium of winding up petitions have been lifted. What immediate effects are you seeing in terms of businesses in financial distress?
Well, first of all, I think it's suffice to say the telephone's ringing far more often in terms of businesses seeking advice. They range from medium-sized businesses who are now facing the end of furlough monies, bounce-back loan monies having to be repaid, and other time-to-pay arrangements with HMRC, down to or up to, whichever way you want to look at it, sole trader businesses who haven't had the benefit of much of this money. So, in short, things are getting a lot busier in relation to the distressed business arena.
Absolutely. Now, what's the key messages that business in financial distress should be taken away?
Very simple. Take advice very early. It's not necessarily the end of your business. If it's in financial distress, things can be done, even if it's only to save part of the business. But the key message is take advice early. Don't leave it too late.
And don't put your head in the sand.
Absolutely.
Mark, always great to talk to you. Thank you.
And you. Take care.
So here we are again with one of the great businesses of North Wales, Workplace, and its co-owner, Mark Whitfield. Mark, tell us, how long have Workplace been in operation?
So Workplace itself, formerly known as OSM Consultants, has been operating now for around about 10 years, covering the whole of the United Kingdom.
And HR itself is a hugely competitive industry sector. What makes you guys different?
So we differentiate ourselves from the market. We don't operate call centres. So although we have a retainer-based model whereby people pay subscriptions to us on a weekly, monthly basis, we have minimum level 7 CIPD consultants actually answering and giving the corporate advice. So we don't give scripted advice, we give corporate advice because we care about our businesses and building our businesses.
And it's really developing that personal relationship with your clients, yes?
100%, because the bigger brands out there at the moment, the monopoly is call centres and they just give scripted advice, which you can get from ACAS. Ourselves in Workplace, how we differentiate ourselves is by standing by our values. So we're accountability, which is ownership and taking ownership of what we do, showing a bit of humility, which means we put our clients before we put ourselves. And we act with a lot of passion.
Great stuff. Mark, it's been a great success story. Keep up the great work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Of course it is, yeah. Well, once again, welcome back to the North Wales Business Exhibition for our Forum 3, where we're going to be looking at skills and skills training in the region. With me, I've got, beg your pardon, Dr. Elias, I've got that right, haven't I? Dr. Rob Elias. Sorry, Dr. Elias.
It's been a long morning.
It has indeed. Deputy Director of Beacon at Bangor University. I've also got Amanda Holmes of Coleg Cymru, and Amanda's going to be talking to us about skills. And underpinning on that all and putting the connection between businesses and colleges is Chrissy Small of Gap Personnel. Dr. Elias, we'll start with you. Please tell us about the Beacon project, because I've heard about that for the first time today.
Okay, yes, yeah. Well, the Beacon project is a pan-Wales initiative. It involves Bangor University, Aberystwyth, Swansea and University of South Wales. And we've got together to help companies develop the bioeconomy within Wales. So this is thinking about decarbonisation. People talking a lot about decarbonisation at the moment, with COP26 in particular.
Yes.
So we're there to help companies look at new technologies which are going to be less environmentally impacting in the future. So there's going to be less environmental damage, substituting of materials, moving away from toxic chemicals, using alternatives that are going to be far more environmentally friendly in the future. Things like looking at different types of plastics is a good example in the packaging sector.
Right, okay. Now the other thing about that, so what opportunities in the bioeconomy sector what skills will be needed in the future?
This is a really interesting one, and I think there is a bit of a skills gap here. First of all, I think in particular having R&D skills is really important. And today I've been on the stand this morning and we've been talking to lots of different people about R&D and the importance that has within their industries and their businesses. So what sort of skills do we need for R&D? So it's having a good science-based understanding, but also thinking about the applications of technology.
Yes.
So that's the transfer bit between moving from academia into the workplace. So those skills, having those business skills and thinking about the applications of technology are going to be really important. So, I see a great opportunity there for new skills to be developed.
Yes.
And, matching those up to the bioeconomy, the green economy. And in Wales, we have some great opportunities to do that and tap into lots of different programs that we have running here through the colleges and through the universities as well.
Absolutely. And just with that, Dr. Elias, do we need to go back even further in terms of when we start talking about the bioeconomy? And I'm thinking about late junior school into early senior school.
Yeah, that outreach at early years is really critical. And again, if you look at what's happening with recycling technologies within Wales, we've surpassed targets there. We're beating England hands down in terms of our recycling rates, and a lot of that is because of the education that's going back down to the primary and early education years. And that's really important, getting that message over, engaging with young people, making them aware of what's possible within those sectors so that they can see a future career path there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's encouraging, isn't it, that we are being pushed by the youngsters in many ways, certainly when it comes down to climate change.
Yeah, when you see what's happening with COP26
Absolutely.
and the youngsters involved there, it's brilliant, yeah.
Great stuff. Turning to you, Amanda, I mean, you're part of this, very much part of this process in terms of, the developing those skills. So at College Cambria, how are they supporting businesses in terms of skills development?
Well, I manage the employee engagement team, so how do we support our employers? It's really sort of getting under their skin. What we do as a team, we produce a training needs analysis because every employer has got different skills needs, whether it be for new recruits, whether it be for existing staff, and obviously the Welsh Government, it's all about upskilling and giving us the skills for the future, with what you've just referenced with the biodiversity projects that you're working on. So sorry, that put me off. And sorry, you put me off.
Going.
Sorry. So how do we support skills? I think it's by giving our employees a voice for them to tell us what they need. Because yes, we've got our off-the-shelf offering, but that doesn't always fit individual employers' needs. So we run things such as advisory boards, focus groups, where employees can come into the college and share with the curriculum staff what their needs are, in addition to what we already offer. So I think it's a holistic approach to understanding each employer's individual needs through my team, and then feeding that into curriculum. If that offer isn't there, that support, we look at things like AI. There's so many things we're doing for the Institute of Technology to meet specific industry needs at the moment. So I think it's just having that really honest, open conversations with our employers to sort of navigate through the funding, navigate their skills need, and then obviously give them the resources and the funding to be able to develop the skills on site in the business.
Absolutely. And I think, moving forward, and we'll bring Chrissy in a few minutes' time, is that it's not about like a customer-supplier relationship. It's about collaboration, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. We as a college. I suppose, because I work for work-based learning, but I know that as a college now, as a Cambria brand, work-based learning work hand in hand with curriculum, because we bring in the employers to explain what they need, and some curriculum staff do as well. Yeah. But we collaborate internally, but also externally with our employers using their skills and their knowledge if we don't have it at the college. So it's very much about a win-win situation to give the employers what they need based on the conversations we have, and it's helping us elevate ourselves as a college as well with the back catalogue of support we can offer.
Absolutely. Now, the one thing about the college, it's been very, very successful. So just tell us about how the college actually responded to the challenges of the pandemic, because your student figures have grown.
Very fast. we were quick. We were quick off the mark. So literally from the 23rd of March, I think it was, last year, we had to go completely online. So for myself, working with the business school, because I suppose I can comment more so on the work-based learning side because that's the team I work for, but I know curriculum did exactly the same. Everything went online. So we had to, as a staff unit, work together we had to carry on, we couldn't stop. So we invested in using new platforms. So for teaching and learning, all of our courses had to go online. So for all the whole business school offer had to go online, whereas historically it had been classroom-led. So there were some challenges with some of the awarding bodies, don't get me wrong, but I think as a unit we pulled together so quickly to get our offer online to ensure that the employee support was there. Even for myself, we invested in using the Zoom webinar function because we wanted to keep up the employee engagement piece. We couldn't just let things go. So I think we were really, really proactive, and I think the hardest bit was trying to educate and make sure that people had the resources as well, because it's all great to say, yeah, we'll deliver it all online, but if someone hasn't got access to a laptop or they've got a number of children who are homeschooling, we were able to share resources that the college had as well, so giving out Chromebooks. Curriculum-wise, exactly the same. We just had to change overnight, and you know what, it's made us a better college, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I mean, the student numbers that I saw, 7,000 permanent and 20,000 part-time. Right.
And that's partly apprenticeships as well, because we're seeing through the sort of extension of Welsh Government incentive payments and schemes, it's still carrying on, trying to come on. Now is a good time to take on apprentices, we're coming the other side. So yeah, it's actually been, as long as there's been some awful things that's happened because of COVID, I think as a college it's made us agile, and we'll always be ready for anything now.
Absolutely. And Chrissy, turning to you finally, in many ways, you're the conduit between our learning platforms, our learning universities and colleges, and of course the businesses themselves. So, how tough is it for you to engage, to find the right skill set?
Yeah, and over the last 18 months, 2 years, it's been incredibly difficult. The labour shortages that we're seeing here in North Wales are happening right the way across the UK. We haven't got the same available labour as we did, 18 months, 2 years ago. We work in partnership with our clients, as we do with the local colleges and universities as well. And it is about coming together. That collaboration piece is more important now than ever before, because there isn't an abundance of people just waiting to come into work. So now more than ever, we need to work closely with the colleges, the universities, to see actually from those students leaving, what can we do to support those candidates going back into employment?
Absolutely. Well, certainly we're running out of time, and we, again, with skills and skills learning, we could talk about all day. But I think once again we've seen here the passion for North Wales as an area, as everything that's going on, and it's supported once again by three people here who don't just do business together, they actually collaborate together. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're now talking to Gary Brumby, Sales Director of Jackson Fire and Security, a great North Wales company. Gary, tell us, what's the latest? What are you doing to help the economy in North Wales here?
We've looked at various things recently. Something that we're trying to do is sort of grow the engineering base from grassroots level. So we've looked at some new trainees come on board. They'll go through a industry-specific fire and security program, which will lead to a MVQ level 3 at the end, basically. So
Excellent.
That will obviously feed into the engineering team, and we're looking to try and develop that and grow that, not just in North Wales, but across our other branches UK-wide, really. So.
Absolutely. And it's key, isn't it, that we get these youngsters coming through specifically to traditional industries like yours?
Absolutely, yeah. So we get a lot of inquiries from sort of electrical trade, and that, it gives them a good foundation, but they don't have the specific tools and sort of basic skill sets that we need for fire and security, which is very, very specific to what we do.
Absolutely.
So this programme that we've sort of enrolled them in builds them up and gives them the tools and skill sets that they need to progress in the industry. So it's helping the industry as well as obviously everything attributed to that.
Great stuff. Gary, always great to talk to you. Jacksons are very much an integral part of the Mersey Alliance. Keep up the great work, won't you?
Thank you very much.
Not at all. Pleasure. In any development business, recruitment is absolutely key. And I'm delighted to be talking to Chrissy Small of Gap Personnel. Chrissy, tell me a little bit about Gap Personnel and why you're supporting the North Wales Business Exhibition.
So Gap Personnel has been involved in the North Wales Business Exhibition from the start. It's really key to be a part of that business community, to support what is happening in the area and to promote our services to see how we can work together in partnership.
Oh, brilliant. And in the current labour shortage that we're hearing about all of the time, how is that affecting your business?
Yeah, it's been a real impact on the business at the moment. There is a real labour shortage, not only here in North Wales, but actually across the whole of the UK. The various different factors that have affected that. We look at the likes of freedom of movement coming to an end, the pandemic where our European candidates haven't been able to go home maybe within the last 18 months, 2 years, suddenly get to that point with the settlement status and various new rules coming out, not seeing family and friends, and actually have decided to take the opportunity to go home and may not come back to the UK due to the restrictions. Business is also buoyant across the area, which is great news, but with the current labour shortage, it's causing a real supply chain issue.
Yeah. Well, I know the personal approach that you take to it, Chrissy, so I'm sure you'll start sorting some of those labour shortages out quite soon at Gap Personnel.
Let's hope so.
Thank you for
very
talking
much.
to us.
Thanks, Gary.
The captains, you can see the floor manager counting down halfway through telling you what they want to tell you.
Yes, I can. Which one are we doing now?
International trade now.
International trade, that's
International
what
trade.
it is. Malcolm's running around. Yes, it is. How are you, Clive?
I'm all right.
Good
yeah.
to see you again.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the North Wales Business Exhibition for our final forum of the day, and I'm delighted to have with me to talk about international trade, Clive. Clive, it's just wonderful to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
The ITSG group. Now, tell me, Clive, first and foremost, you set up ITSG World only a couple of years ago. Was it because of Brexit?
It wasn't necessarily because of Brexit. In some ways, it was a bit of a diversion for us. We being a group of international trade advisors, looked at what was being available to businesses, and we found that actually there was huge gaps in the type of provision and the type of support that was available to them. So we felt that if we could find something that was more relevant for businesses, then we'll be able to achieve a lot more with them. And then Brexit came in the middle of that, and then obviously we were diverted off to explaining what the consequences were and what the opportunities were with Brexit as well. Really.
Absolutely. So take us a little stage further on that. Why is international trade so important to Wales, and particularly North Wales?
It's absolutely crucial to us because 9.6% of British businesses actually admit to exporting, but that contributes 27% towards the GDP. So by its very nature, if we could increase the number of businesses that actually do export, then the impact on the economy is absolutely massive. When you look at an area like North Wales traditionally has relied on some core industries, and if you go back as far as the 1980s, then mines and the steel industry and the retraction. So then it was either, are we going to become a tourist nation, or are we actually going to be able to redevelop our infrastructure? And North Wales in particular has done a fantastic job about developing manufacturing and really significant innovation. And that's really the value to the rest of the world, because it is a very exportable service that we can do.
Absolutely. And I know when we've spoken before, you often have referred to international trade and relationships. Isn't that just export and import? And what do you mean by relationships in international means?
It's part of the philosophy of ITSG that, yes, exports obviously are the predominant thing. I mean, that's what we're about, is to increase the number of British companies, and in particular Welsh companies, that export. But there's also massive needs for supply chain. We are a global economy.
Yeah.
So import becomes a major part of that. The international relationships is absolutely crucial. We are, as a global entity now, we are talking about climate change. That's just one example of it.
Yes.
We cannot tackle climate change ourselves as a nation. We can't. We can do our bit towards it, but we can't actually come up with a solution. But if we work collaboratively with other nations, then we can actually start to find answers. So the developing of international relationships leads on to trade. And that's why we feel it's so important to push that message. It also, if you're trading with someone, you're less likely to go to war with them, to be absolutely blunt about it. You know, when you think that some of the countries or regions that we would, or if you listen to the media, are kind of hostile, so we're talking about Russia and China.
Yes.
Well, they are very large trading partners of ours. And because of that trading relationship, whatever political disagreements there are less likely to actually escalate into some sort of a conflict.
Absolutely. It's we'll come back to that in a moment, because you've used a word that we've heard in previous seminars, but probably a question on everybody's lips from your point of view. Brexit. Was it a good thing or a bad thing for not only the UK but again for Wales?
Okay. It's a really difficult one to answer, because unfortunately we are still polarised with our original view as to whether Brexit was good or bad. My argument is that we are business people. And as business people, we deal with whatever cards we have in front of us. We can't influence what's happened with Brexit. It's already happened. So therefore, I tend to turn the conversation around as not whether it's good or whether it's bad, it's are there opportunities that we can actually help you to access. And that's what we're about, is looking for those opportunities, guiding those businesses to be able to maximise those opportunities. At the same time, there are things that are different. And I think that's the thing with Brexit, is the markets are still there. The world hasn't changed dramatically. The way that we deal with those nations now has changed. They are export markets. So yes, there's change, but is change good or is change bad? It's a personal opinion. So I look at it from a glass half full perspective, basically.
Okay, interesting one. Now we hear a lot in the news and the media. You mentioned there about export partners, trade agreements. What are they, and why are they so important?
Okay, so a trade agreement or a free trade agreement is basically an agreement between two nations or more than two nations, where they will agree to trade with each other and either reduce or eliminate tariffs. So they make it easier for trade to actually take place. So if you think about it, when we were in the EU, we were in one colossal free trade agreement.
Yes.
Now, when we came out of the EU, there was a huge amount of nervousness about, well, are we going to have huge tariffs, which makes it almost impossible to sell or buy our products? So the governments have been developing free trade agreements certainly with the countries where the European Union previously had free trade agreements. The first part of the exercise was go in and make sure that those free trade agreements continued.
Yes.
And then since then, because we are no longer bound by the rules of the European Union, the government have had the opportunity to go and negotiate additional free trade agreements throughout the world. They're very important because it puts the emphasis, it builds a relationship between the country you want to export to. And on the back of, and the momentum that's built up behind that, allows initiatives to take place. So therefore, it's an opportunity for Welsh companies to actually sell to a market that otherwise would have been closed to them. A good example of that is New Zealand. It's the latest one that's been signed off, and it means now that Welsh products can be sold into New Zealand tariff-free in majority of the cases. Yes, it's a two-way agreement. All agreements are two-way agreements, but it means that it's opened up New Zealand as a market that would have been difficult prior to that agreement being signed.
So what you're really saying is that, which a lot of people think, because we've come out of the EU, we've lost our biggest market, but we're doing quite well in replacing it with others, aren't we?
Absolutely. I mean, and this is the thing that I suppose, it depends on sort of which newspaper you read as much as anything else, I would say to this one, to be absolutely clear about it. We haven't lost the European market. The European market is exactly the same market as it was before, and we're still trading with Europe. The difference is that prior to us leaving the European Union, it was a single market.
Yes.
So free movement of people, free movement of goods. Now it is an export market. So we now have 27 other countries that we export to.
Yes.
Yes, there have been some teething problems, and some of them have been very severe for some sectors. So customs and some of the paperwork procedures have been difficult, challenging. They're settling down slowly, but we're still a long way away from it. But that market is still there. The European market is as it was. I think we're probably trading at about 90% of the trade, so the exports that we currently send to Europe are about 90% of what they were. So we lost 10%. But if you think about what we've replaced with new markets, with these free trade agreements,
Absolutely.
then we've more than compensated for the loss of that market, basically.
Yeah, very much so. Now, you mentioned New Zealand there before. Where else in the world should we be trading?
So throughout the world, as well as being individual free trade agreements that the British government has been instituting, a lot of regions now have come together and they've set up their own economic forums.
Yes.
So, for instance, there is in Asia, Southeast Asia, the Pacific Rim, there are some major markets in and around that area. They've come together as a trading entity. Britain has applied to join that, CPTPP. That includes countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, Singapore, some major economies there. Africa have come together as a consortium. There are 54 countries that are signed up to that. So if you think about the potential market there, and what we tend to forget is the Commonwealth.
Absolutely.
The Commonwealth, up until when we went into the European Union, was the major market.
Yes.
And then we had to change the relationship with them. So, again, since we've left the European Union, we've been redeveloping and re-energising our relationship with the Commonwealth. There are 53 countries in the Commonwealth that all want to trade with the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And Wales is very strong amongst that, because Wales has its own identity and Welsh product has a value in its own right. So the Commonwealth is a massive market to aim for.
Absolutely. So just really finishing that one off, Clive, how does ITSG World help businesses?
We like to think ourselves as the go-to people, so we can answer queries and we can find solutions for them. But effectively, we have a number of products that obviously we need to make money. We're not funded by any government agency or anything like that, so we have to finance ourselves. So we work for the company. We identify what the company actually needs and we help them to achieve what it is. So if they're looking to export their products, we can have a look at areas where they can export to. We can guide them through the processes to be able to get into that market. If they're looking for supply chain, and that's a big one at the moment, because of the transport issues globally, a lot of people are looking for alternatives to, say, buying from China. So we'll search and we'll help them identify those supply chain markets.
Yes.
And then the building, the building of international relationships. Again, we use that as an opportunity then to be able to come up with opportunities that we can pass on to businesses. So we're very much part of, or we like to become very much part of the strategic thinking of a business, and help them to get from wherever they are now to wherever they aspire to be. And we're flexible enough to be able to do that.
Yeah. And it's interesting what you say there, because many businesses in the past, and we see it now actually with social media, they try and do everything themselves. When the key thing is, if you're not an expert in it, don't do it. Bring in somebody like you.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. The analogy is, I am absolutely useless at IT. So I might have a play at it, but if I play at it, I get into trouble and I
Yes.
make things worse. So it's a natural thing for me to go and use an IT specialist to be able to help me to do it. And that's kind of what we offer. But we offer it in a very flexible way. So we don't go in there and say, this is what you should do. We don't go in there as a typical consultant and say, for X amount of money a day, we'll do this and we'll give you a report at the end of it. We work with what the company wants and what the company needs. And if that means one of the products that we've actually branded is Export Manager. And what we mean by that is that you can have the expertise and the resources from our organisation on a day a week, a day a month, a day every 3 months.
Yeah.
But it's what you need, it's not what we want to sell you, basically. But if you are looking at, say, a market for the first time, then that's a really good way of being able to get into that market. We'll have a look at your business, we'll have a look at your ability to export, and then we'll show you how you can export. And if you want us to export or help you do it, then we'll do it. But if you don't, and you can do it yourself, then we'll say, thank you very much, come back to us when you need us. It's that type of flexibility that we've built into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Clive, it's been great talking to you today. I think what you've proved certainly as well is that North Wales is not just about everything that's happening in the area internally. There's a lot to tell the world out there of what North Wales is here to offer. So,
absolutely. If you look at North Wales and if you look at just one sector, renewable energy, clean energy.
Yes.
And if you look at the innovation that's come out of North Wales and how that is being exported to the rest of the world, there's a company that is very close to here now, and they're working on the offshore wind farms in Taiwan. They are unique in the world. They have a product, they have a service that is unique in the world. That's come from North Wales, and you would have never thought that without sort of the sort of the opportunities that we're able to provide them with, basically.
Absolutely. And I think one final thing from me is that one that I see ITESG doing is that we've talked about import-export, we've talked about trade agreements, but what you really do, you provide that conduit to help people really, countries to really collaborate together.
Yes.
And businesses, and that's key.
Absolutely. It's all about what's appropriate for the business. It's not what we think they should have.
Clive, thank you so much. I love that. And once again, we've seen so many good things about North Wales coming through the North Wales Business Exhibition. As Clive is just very much in a 15-minute education process, he's given us the message that needs to go out to the rest of the world. North Wales is here for business, and it's here for you in other countries for business. Thank you. Taking things slightly different, we're now talking to Tony Fish, Engagement Director for the MOD. Tony, tell us, why should businesses engage with defence?
For a number of very, very good reasons, Gary. Okay, for a start, we can provide access to a very large number of highly skilled individuals who are transitioning from a defence role every year, looking to move seamlessly and painlessly into civilian employment. Okay.
And why should businesses therefore consider signing the Armed Forces Covenant?
The Armed Forces Covenant is a way in which businesses can demonstrate their support to defence by offering a level playing field to these service leavers so that they should not be discriminated against in any way, shape or form. Sometimes businesses may struggle or have perceptions that service leavers may not be appropriate for their organisation. So part of my role is to break down those barriers, to educate or re-educate businesses into the value of employing highly skilled service leavers who are coming out with a range of skills, with a range of experiences, some of which may be relatively low rank, with a little bit less experience, okay, who can slot into more junior roles. Others will be coming out after many, many years. Okay. High levels, colonels, brigadiers with some very, very specific, well-honed management skills, organisational skills, okay, that businesses of different, across many sectors can benefit from employing.
Yes, and it's vitally important just to close on that, isn't it? Because they do bring great skills and be a major asset to any business, wouldn't they?
You generally find that if a business has employed a service leaver, they want more of them. They often put the rest of the workforce to shame with their values and standards that they've been brought up with through a service career, service history.
Yeah, and discipline.
Absolutely, discipline.
Tony, keep up the great work. It's hugely important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Raising the profile of your business is absolutely key, and that's why you should look to outsource companies like Outright PR. Anthony, earlier this month, Outright PR won the Best Integrated PR Campaign Award. What is integrated PR?
Well, at the core of PR is about informing, educating and building trust with your target audiences. But our stakeholders are all over the place now because of digital. A lot are online, a lot are offline, and we need to take a multi-tactic approach to speak to them, and that could be media relations, social media, podcasting, print newsletters, any form of storytelling we can do on any channel that builds that relationship with those stakeholders is key. But we need to make sure it's strategic and measurable as well, otherwise we're doing PR and communications for the sake of it, which doesn't bring that return on investment for businesses.
It's an interesting one because search engine optimization, SEO, is another popular tactic for businesses. Where does PR fit in there?
It's probably easier to ask the question, where doesn't it fit in?
Right.
The Google changes over the last 10 years have made it so that PR activity is hugely important for search visibility, so being seen on page one of the Google search results essentially. And that's everything from earning links back to your website, which is commonly referred to as link building, so it's securing coverage on media outlets and getting links back from those media outlets to your website. It's using that PR content as engaging, fresh, relevant content, which Google absolutely loves. And the final key point is Google is clever enough to build up a picture about you online. So what everybody's saying about you and what you say about yourself, Google uses that as part of its algorithm, the science behind why websites appear in a certain order, to have an opinion about you. And the better that opinion, the higher that you're going to rank. So if you're carrying out PR, chances are you're also doing SEO as well, you just don't realise it.
Right. And the key thing there, just to finish off as well, is that don't try and do it yourself. Use an expert like Outright PR, yes?
You can try and do it yourself. We do a lot of training and consultancy as well, but it's just make sure you've got that guidance in place to keep you on the straight and narrow, because the industry constantly changes.
Great. Anthony, keep winning those awards.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So at the North Wales Business Exhibition, I'm delighted to be joined by Helen Swift of Airbus Public Affairs. Now, Helen, aerospace as a sector has been hit very, very hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you see the market and the sector recovering?
A really good question. It's been a really challenging 18 months for us, but the positive news is that trust and confidence in air travel is starting to get back. We're seeing the green shoots of recovery, and subsequently at Airbus in Broughton, where we manufacture the wings for every Airbus aircraft globally, we're up in production. We're really positive about the future.
It's brilliant. And of course, we're very proud of the fact that Broughton is a major part of the Airbus family, and a great success story it has been. So where are the opportunities for growth within the region?
Yes, there's a lot of opportunities for growth. We are the home of Airbus's largest research and development project. It's called Wing of Tomorrow. We are designing and developing and industrialising the next generation wing, which is going to be more fuel efficient and give our aircraft customers a greater cash operating cost, which means that they can offer more suitable air travel for passengers globally. As a business, we've also agreed to bring the world's first zero-emission aircraft to life by 2035. It's going to be based by hydrogen technologies. So we really need investment in sustainable aviation and sustainable aviation fuels and hydrogen fuels, which is really going to inspire the next generation of young people to come and work within our business. And on that point, we have over 436 early career opportunities that are live now. We're recruiting for graduates, apprentices and interns across the whole of our business. So go on to airbus.com and see those opportunities.
You've answered the perfect question. How do they get in touch? That's absolutely brilliant. Well, Helen, it's a great success story, as I say, and the fact that you do so much in Broughton as well is really great for the economy in this part of the world. Thank you very much for talking to us today.
Thank you, Gary.
our maintenance scheme, and we've also got production apprenticeships, which take you straight to...
Is that basically your D-side plan?
Yes, it is.
Going forward.
At the North Wales Business Exhibition, we're now talking to Lauren of Hanson Cement. Lauren, tell us, what is Hanson's approach to employing and training in the local area?
Each year we run 2 separate schemes in a graduate trainee programme and a lead apprenticeship programme. Within these schemes we're looking to attract local talent, train them and put them through all the relevant qualifications to come out at the end with a job within one of our production facilities or on one of our sites.
Fantastic. And are you a local person yourself?
I'm actually from South Wales. Moved up here for my opportunity with this job, but Hanson are a equal opportunities employer, so we are welcoming anyone and everyone, and particularly looking for local talent as well.
That's brilliant. Great that you've got that local message coming in. Well, good afternoon once again. The North Wales Business Exhibition has been so engaging. It's been so innovative. And there's been so much collaboration that's gone on today that we thought we better put another forum in. So we've managed to get 3 highly experienced marketeers so we can talk to them about what does marketing really mean in the digital age. So Charlotte Whedon of Aaron and Partners, I'll come to you first. Now, you're in what is considered to be kind of that white-collar business environment, the finance sector. So tell us, what are Aaron and Partners doing to really raise their profile through digital media?
Yeah, so Aaron & Partners is a law firm. We have 4 offices. We are very active on social media and across our website as well. Activities range from LinkedIn through to a YouTube channel which we've just started, putting all of our employment events on and events which our lawyers speak at. So it goes to a wider range of an audience. I've just completed a digital marketing apprenticeship to upskill myself, so I'm brought into the digital age and refreshing my knowledge constantly. So yeah, it's just about being active on social and understanding the large target audiences we have, because we just attract different types of people, you know, business to business or B2B or business to customer, which is B2C.
Absolutely, yeah. Now I must ask you though, because it is one of the traditional industries where it was very much paper-based. I mean, that's my impersonation of a lawyer going into court.
Yeah.
How did you get the partners to change?
Well, I wouldn't say we're paperless, but we're paper light.
Right.
Some partners do find it difficult to understand social media, but you know, through training which we provide in-house to our partners, to our fee earners, and to other support staff, they're able to understand and engage with the social media activity that we're doing.
Absolutely. Now turning to Anthony next, Anthony Bullock of Outright PR. Anthony, the PR industry has always kind of been at the forefront of raising people's profile. What's the digital age meant for you?
It's been really good because historically the only way to enhance a reputation was through media relations, and then digital came along and it just opened up the number of platforms that we could use for brands to tell their story, to inform, to educate, and to build trust and to build relationships and speak directly to the stakeholders.
Yeah, and in terms of the reach, you know, how has it been in terms for the business? What has it been able to enable you to do to get out to a greater audience?
For ourselves, it's enabled us to build relationships beyond our immediate footprint of North Wales and the North West. We've got clients across the UK, and it's the digital platforms that's opened that up for us. We can spot when someone needs a piece of content that might assist them, so we can produce that content. We can have conversations with people who are down in London. We've just won a client who are headquartered in France, and it's not just the UK, it's opened up possibilities across the world.
Absolutely. And it's funny because we're going to go to our next guest, Nicola Moore of Market Moore, a great friend of mine, I don't mind saying. Probably this is going to be the toughest one of the 4 of you. But Nick, we've always said, have we not, is that work is not a place, it's just something we do.
Absolutely.
So you started Market Moore 3 years ago?
3 years ago,
3
yeah.
years ago. What challenges have you faced getting people to convert to the digital marketing age?
I think for different businesses, I think one of them is perhaps the age of that business. They think they're established, and it's actually going along and saying, well, what else they can do.
Yeah.
I think it's who their audience is predominantly, and we were talking before about what platforms there are available these days to reach those audience. But it's a big learning curve for a lot of businesses because it is so fast paced. We've only got to look at, the other week, hadn't we, when Facebook went down and Instagram went down. Twitter were loving it because everyone went to Twitter to find out what was going on, and it is, but it's working with them, like what Anthony was saying then, it is about their brands, their brand awareness, the reach that they can get from that. And when you start working with them and you creating those stories with them and they can start to see it like anything, then they'll get on board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And did you find that night, you mentioned Facebook going down, I almost called it my favourite, which was Facetune. When it went down that night, did a lot of people think that their account had been blocked? All of a sudden they thought they were as important as Donald Trump.
Absolutely, but it kind of all stopped. It was quite nice actually, because it was for people in marketing, we actually had a bit of downtime. But it's these things can happen. Yeah,
absolutely. Now Liz Davis Clayton of Ellison Marketing will come to you next, because you're sporting a lovely Google t-shirt there. In terms of the change, I mean, we've touched on the different genres, I suppose, if you like, with Nicola. Do you find it's difficult in terms of getting the adoption of the older business person or the older digital, the older business owner, shall we say?
Generation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes, because they think Facebook and all the digital platforms are just for you to sit and look and have fun and put family pictures on. But what they don't realise is all the retargeting that goes on through all the digital platforms.
Yeah.
So all the retargeted marketing, so you could be sitting posting your pictures, looking through your family pictures, but then you will get targeted by adverts.
Right.
So it is a fantastic platform, all the social platforms to market your company on.
And do they sit, if we sectorise digital marketing, do their partners, so if you look at me with this pinstripe suit on, for example, do I sit very much in the LinkedIn space, or should I be looking much wider than that?
I would say look much wider, yeah. I find sometimes that LinkedIn, a lot of people use it for careers, to promote their job vacancies, things like that. But all of a sudden, I think because LinkedIn have realised that, then they're getting more animated. So you see a lot more animated adverts popping up on LinkedIn, on YouTube, which YouTube's been around for a long time. I use TikTok all the time.
Use TikTok all the time.
And I'm not 21.
Right, we're running to the end, but let's just go on to TikTok. How valuable, Charlotte, we'll start with you, how valuable is TikTok in the business environment?
In the business environment, I'd say TikTok, as well as many other social media platforms, is certainly for people of my age. The first place I look for a recommendation is social media, or I look at the business page and I want to see what other people are speaking about the business or interacting with the business. So it's definitely important for brands to have that scope on different social media platforms.
Absolutely.
As a law firm, TikTok really isn't for us. I've not seen many other law firms on TikTok.
Absolutely.
Imagine. I don't know what I'd post. The possibilities are endless what I could post, but I'm not sure the partners would get on board with TikTok. It would be good to see more professional sectors on TikTok, though, and just looking at the different types of content that they could produce would be fantastic, but I use it more personally for me.
Right, okay. Anthony, just quickly turning to you, is that one of your favourites in terms of a digital media platform? What would that be?
It's difficult because our clients have a lot of different stakeholders of different demographics.
Yeah.
And another issue our clients have is time. And if you're then creating content for multiple platforms, it can then become very time consuming. So if you're going to embark on TikTok and doing more TikTok, it's have we got time to truly invest in creating content for that, so that it's resonating with people and grabbing people's attention.
Absolutely, yeah, very much so. Okay, so Nick, I mean, and Liz, very quickly, do you have a preference, or again, are you on, I suppose, on the same page as these guys?
Yeah, very much so. I think, but like what Anthony was saying, I think for me, a snapshot of the day would probably be Twitter, because of the characters. You know, you can just put key messages out there, and you don't have to have all the media behind it and things like that, and prepare them as much. So if I was introducing somebody to it, that's probably what I'd introduce them to first.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And Liz, finally with you?
I think it depends whether you're going to be hunting for business or waiting for business.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go out hunting for it, then always the social platforms are the best. If you're waiting for it to come looking for you, then obviously Google has always got to be there.
Do you know, I know with marketeers, I could sit here and talk to you all for the rest of the afternoon. It'd be great, especially over a glass of wine, Nick. But we have to leave it there. But I think the important thing coming out of this particular session as well, if you've got somebody in your business that is the expert that Charlotte is, then that's great. Get them to run your social media. If you're not, and it's not a speciality of yours, you need to engage with the other three. So on that note, you know, don't do it yourself. Call in the experts. From the North Wales Business Exhibition, once again, leaving it with 4 marketeers, 4 digital marketing experts. Thank you and good afternoon.